Tonight, Sheikh at the top. Incumbent Sheikh Hasina wins fifth-term re-election amid turnout controversy. Questions were raised over the official turnout of 40% after the opposition boycott call and reports of empty polling stations. Boeing on the ground. US orders Boeing 737 MAX 9 planes grounded after Alaska Airlines blowout. Nearly 200 planes grounded as FAA investigates. EU to follow suit. The New Year quake. The death toll from Japan's devastating New Year's Day earthquake has risen to more than 160. Investigations are underway as the search and rescue missions continue. And the glimmering globes. A bomb maker wins big, while Barbie bombs out. All that and more as World News Tonight starts right now.
This is Derana World News Tonight. Reporting from Colombo, here's Mahesh Jani.
A very good evening, everyone, and welcome to our first broadcast of World News Tonight for this year, 2024. Good to be back at the news desk, bringing you news from all across the world. Well, we have a range of stories from elections to the Golden Globes. Our reporters are standing by all across the world to bring you the latest. But tonight, we begin in our neighboring Bangladesh. As the country went to the polls today, now Bangladeshi Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina won the re-election for a fifth term in the national election that was conducted yesterday amidst the boycott by the Bangladeshi Nationalist Party led by former Prime Minister Khaleda Zia, who is currently in jail. Now, Sheikh Hasina's party Awami League has won a fourth consecutive term in the 12th parliamentary election, marking the second lowest voter turnout since the reinstatement of democracy back in 1991.
Bangladesh's Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina has secured her fourth straight term in a controversial election. Ms. Hasina will serve another 5 years in office after her party, the Awami League, and its allies won 223 of 300 parliamentary seats contested. With the main opposition, Bangladesh Nationalist Party, boycotting the poll, Ms. Hasina's party and allies are expected to win the remaining seats as well. The BNP alleged the poll was a sham. The result comes after mass arrests of BNP leaders and supporters. Official figures suggested a low voter turnout of about 40%, though critics say even those numbers may be inflated. In comparison, the last election in 2018 had a voter turnout of more than 80%. Independents, almost all of them from the Awami League itself, won 45 seats and the Jatiya Party won 8 seats. It's the fifth term in total for Ms. Hasina, who first became Prime Minister in 1996 and was re-elected in 2009, remaining in power since. Awami League General Secretary Obaidul Qadir told reporters that Ms. Hasina had instructed party leaders and supporters not to hold victory processions or indulge in celebrations. Human Rights Watch estimates that nearly 10,000 activists were arrested after an opposition rally on 28 October turned violent, resulting in the deaths of at least 16 people and injuring more than 5,500. It accused the government of filling prisons with the ruling Awami League's political opponents. The Awami League has denied these accusations.
Well, Boeing's headache of faulty aircraft continues this new year as a new incident in the United States has prompted another MAX plane to be grounded. U.S. regulators have ordered the temporary grounding of 171 Boeing 737 MAX 9 aircraft following a cabin panel blowout late on Friday that forced a brand new airplane operated by Alaska Airlines to make an emergency landing. Now, in their own statement, Boeing officials said, and I quote, "We agree with and fully support the FAA's decision to require immediate inspections of the 737-9 airplanes with the same configuration as the affected plane." End of quote.
New images tonight show the focus of the NTSB's investigation. The gaping hole where a sealed and plugged door hole blew out in a violent explosion as the brand new Alaska Airlines plane was flying at 16,000 feet on its way from Portland to Ontario, California. The pilots wearing oxygen masks forced to make an emergency landing back in Portland.
Alaska 1282, we just depressurized, we're declaring emergency, we need to descend down to 10,000.
Today, passengers described a terrifying flight. Thankfully, no one was sitting in seats 26A or B next to the hole. But the NTSB chief says nearby seats are twisted and bent. The empty seat's headrest and seat cushions missing, sucked out of the plane. A teenage boy sitting one row forward had his shirt ripped off. It happened behind the plane's left wing. An emergency exit door hole cut in case airlines want to carry more passengers. Otherwise, that door is plugged and sealed, leaving an ordinary window. Investigators will be looking at whether that plug was properly bolted in place during manufacturing. Inside the plane, the wind violently pulled the cockpit door free, slamming it against the lavatory. Damage throughout the plane. Had the explosion occurred at cruising altitude, it could have been catastrophic. With the FAA grounding the MAX 9, airlines around the world have been forced to cancel hundreds of flights. In the U.S., Alaska canceling 170, United 180, saying it's waiting for the FAA to provide directions.
Well, let's get the latest on this. Other Derana, Susan Shanali is standing by in Toronto, Canada, and watching these events unfolding in the region, and she joins me via Zoom right now. Shanali, good to see you. Now you're coming to us from Canada. What happened? You disliked us so much that you moved to Canada?
It's good to see you as well, Mahesh, and especially you back at the news desk. And come on, how on earth can I dislike you guys? I just had to move to Canada for a short period to continue my higher studies, and I'm hoping to come back to lovely Sri Lanka very soon.
Well, indeed, we are looking forward to that. But Shanali, let's get to the story that you're covering tonight. What's the latest on this grounding of 737 MAX aircraft? Seems like more problems for Boeing.
Indeed, Mahesh, thousands of passengers saw their flights cancelled after major US airlines grounded dozens of the jets. Disruptions have primarily affected flights in the US. Turkish Airlines, Panama's Copa Airlines and Aeromexico have also grounded jets of the same model for inspections. Alaska grounded 65 planes and said on Sunday that it had cancelled 163 flights, or 21%. Around 25,000 people were affected. The airline said that travel disruptions from the grounding of some of its planes is expected to last at least until midweek. Meanwhile, authorities are still searching for the plug door, and on some good news, they have found the panel in Portland. During Friday's incident, passengers on board said that a large section of the plane's outer shell fell to the ground shortly after takeoff. One passenger said that the gap was as wide as a refrigerator, while another said that the child's shirt was ripped off in the wind as the plane made its emergency landing. The plane carrying 177 passengers and crew landed safely back in Portland. Alaska said that several passengers were injured, but not seriously. Boeing's 737 MAX has been described as the most scrutinized transport aircraft in history after a series of safety issues. The MAX was grounded in March 2019 for a year and a half, and two of the type crashed in similar circumstances to each other, killing those on board. Last month, the FAA urged airlines to inspect MAX models for a possible loose bolt in rudder control systems. Well, it's safe to say that we won't be seeing an end to the Boeing saga soon. Back to you, Mahesh.
Absolutely. Other than Susan Shanali reporting from Toronto, Canada. Thank you very much. Now, let's get the latest from the war in Israel. U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken has said that Palestinian civilians must be able to return home and rejected statements by Israeli officials calling for the mass displacement of Gaza residents. Speaking at a press conference in Doha yesterday alongside Qatari Prime Minister Mohammed bin Abdul Rahman bin Jassim Al Thani, Blinken said that the United Nations could play a crucial role in allowing displaced civilians in Gaza to return home as Israel moves to a lower intensity phase of its military campaign.
This is a conflict that could easily metastasize.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is touring the Middle East amid heightened fears that Israel's offensive in Gaza will spark conflicts among the broader region. On Sunday, Blinken assured Arab leaders that Washington opposes the forcible displacement of Palestinians from Gaza and the occupied West Bank. The pledge came as Jordan's King Abdallah raised his country's concern during their meeting in Amman. The king warned Blinken that Washington has a major role to play in pressuring Israel into an immediate ceasefire, and warned of the catastrophic repercussions of Israel's continued military campaign in Gaza, a palace statement said. After speaking with Jordan officials, Blinken jetted to Qatar, where he said he had discussed efforts to free the more than 100 hostages still believed to be held by Hamas after an agreement mediated by Qatar broke down. Qatar's prime minister says the killing of a Hamas leader in Beirut by an Israeli drone strike has affected their ability to mediate between the Palestinian group and Israel. Meanwhile, in Gaza's Rafah, displaced Palestinians wait to see what Blinken's visit will achieve. We hope that Blinken looks at us with an eye of mercy, ends the war, ends the misery we are living in, this Palestinian woman says. Others at the Rafah camp aren't as hopeful.
This is a conspiratorial visit. This is an unfriendly visit. This visit comes to increase the war against us and displace us even more.
This is Blinken's fourth visit to the region since Hamas's attack on Israel on October 7th. The trip aims to gather Arab states' views on the future of Gaza before taking those positions to Israel.
We continue to raise with Israel the need to do everything possible to facilitate the provision of humanitarian aid to Gaza, and I will do so again when I'm there later this week.
Washington wants Israel's Arab neighbors to play a role in reconstruction, governance, and security in Gaza, an expectation that Israel's assault, which Palestinian officials say has killed over 22,000 Palestinians by Saturday, will eliminate Hamas.
Well, let's get you the latest on the road to the White House, the U.S. presidential election. Former U.S. President Donald Trump will be hoping that the Supreme Court would put an end to his legal troubles as his appeal with the highest court in the land will hear its case this Wednesday. Now, 3 justices in the current U.S. Supreme Court were appointed by Trump himself in his first term, and the current composition of the court is leaning towards conservative.
The U.S. Supreme Court on Friday agreed to hear former President Donald Trump's appeal of a judicial decision barring him from Colorado's Republican primary ballot, a case that holds major implications for the 2024 presidential election. At issue is the Colorado Supreme Court's December 19th ruling disqualifying Trump from the state's primary ballot, based on language in the U.S. Constitution's 14th Amendment, prohibiting anyone who engaged in insurrection or rebellion from holding public office. It marked the first time in history the 14th Amendment's so-called disqualification clause was used to deem a presidential candidate ineligible. The justices made their decision to hear the case with unusual speed. Trump filed his appeal on Wednesday. He's the frontrunner for his party's nomination to challenge Democratic President Joe Biden. The Colorado case thrusts the Supreme Court, whose 6-3 conservative majority includes 3 justices appointed by Trump, into the unprecedented and politically fraught effort to invalidate Trump's bid to reclaim the White House. The justices indicated they would fast-track a decision, scheduling oral arguments for February 8th. The Colorado primary is scheduled on March 5th. Trump also has appealed to a Maine state court a decision by that state's top election official, barring him from the primary ballot under the same constitutional provision at issue in the Colorado case.
Welcome back, everyone, to World News Tonight. The Maldivian government suspended 3 deputy ministers after they mocked Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi on social media. Now, 3 officials from the Youth Ministry has called Modi a clown, a terrorist, and a puppet of Israel on social media platform X, which was formerly known as Twitter. Now, President of Maldives Mohamed Mzou has ordered an investigation and suspended the deputy ministers pending the outcome. The government of Maldives said in a statement that it is aware of the derogatory remarks on social media platforms against foreign leaders and high-ranking individuals, and that these opinions are personal and do not represent the views of the government of Maldives. The three deputy ministers criticized Modi in response to a post in which he shared photos from the pristine beaches of India's tropical Lakshadweep Islands, some 130 kilometers north of the Maldives. All right, let's take you to Australia now. Emergency crews have carried out dozens of rescues after heavy rain caused flash flooding in parts of Victoria on Sunday night, that is yesterday night, and also this morning. Emergency crews and water police carried out 27 flood rescues across the state overnight, including in the 11 Bandingos. Joining me now from Melbourne, Australia, is other Derana's Timothy Phillips, standing by with the latest on that story. Timothy?
Yes, Mahesh. Australia, Sydney was battered by a hailstorm, bringing more wild weather to the New South Wales state capital after it saw heavy rainfall on Christmas. Australia's Bureau of Meteorology warned about the possibility of a severe thunderstorm passing over Sydney, but forecast the heavy rainfall to ease on Thursday. Wild weather had also lashed across a large swathe of Australia's east coast, bringing large hailstones and torrential rains. Strong winds blew off roofs and brought down trees in some of the worst affected areas. More than 90,000 households are still without power. Meanwhile, bushfires destroyed at least 2 homes in Western Australia as residents were told to evacuate. The blaze in Parkerville, some 20 miles east of Perth city centre, was declared an emergency level fire in the morning but was downgraded by the afternoon. It was the 4th emergency level fire in the state, as the hot and windy conditions increased fire risk and made things challenging for firefighters battling to control the fires. This comes as floods caused by heavy rain in the wake of former tropical cyclone Jasper have cut off several towns in Australia's northeast. Australia is now experiencing an El Nino weather phenomenon, which can provoke extremes ranging from wildfires to tropical cyclones and prolonged droughts. Back to you, Mahesh.
Absolutely. Timothy Phillips reporting from Melbourne in Australia. Thank you very much. Senior officials and advisor to Pope Francis said in an interview published yesterday that the Roman Catholic Church should seriously think about allowing priests to marry.
The Roman Catholic Church should seriously think about allowing priests to marry, a senior Vatican official and advisor to Pope Francis has said in an interview. Archbishop Charles Cicluna of Malta, who is also adjunct secretary in the Vatican's doctrinal office, said that this is probably the first time he is saying it publicly, and it will sound heretical to some people. Pope Francis in 2019 ruled out any chance that he would change the Roman Catholic rule requiring priests to be celibate, but it is not a formal doctrine of the Church, and so it could be changed by the future Pope. In an interview with a Latin American news outlet in 2023, Francis spoke about the celibacy rule again, saying that it is not eternal like priestly ordination, but a discipline that could be revised. A Vatican spokesman did not respond to a request for comment. Cicluna, perhaps best known for his investigations of sexual abuse crimes, noted that priests were allowed to marry in the first millennium of the Church's history, and that marriage is allowed today in the Eastern Rite of the Catholic Church. He said, if it were up to him, he would revise the requirement that priests have to be celibate, and that experience has shown him that this is something we need to seriously think about. Cicluna said the Church has lost many great priests because they chose marriage. He said there is a place for celibacy in the Church, but that it also had to take into consideration that a priest sometimes falls in love. He then has to choose between her and the priesthood, and some priests cope with that by secretly engaging in sentimental relationships. The debate over whether Roman Catholic priests should be allowed to be married has been around for centuries. Married men are allowed to become priests in the Eastern Rite of the Catholic Church as well as in the Orthodox Church. Protestant and Anglican churches also allow a married priesthood. Opponents of a married priesthood in the Roman Catholic Church says celibacy allows the priest to dedicate himself entirely to the Church. In 2021, the Pope dismissed a proposal to allow some elderly married men to be ordained in remote areas in the Amazon, where in some places the faithful saw a priest as little as once a year.
Now let's take you to Japan. The death toll from the 7.6 magnitude earthquake that hit Japan last week has risen to 161. Officials in Japan said that in Ishikawa Prefecture, the region most affected by the tremor, damaged roads and snowfalls have complicated the rescue and assistance efforts.
The death toll from Japan's devastating New Year's Day earthquake has risen to more than 160. Efforts are continuing to find more than 100 people who remain missing a week later. But bad weather is hampering rescuers, with heavy rain and snow triggering warnings of landslides and building collapses. The 7.6 magnitude earthquake struck the remote Noto Peninsula, toppling buildings and sparking a major fire. The majority of deaths have happened in the hard-hit cities of Wajima and Suzu. Meanwhile, the number of people missing has dropped from 195 to just over 100. The death toll has jumped from the 120 reported on Sunday. More than 2,000 people are reportedly still cut off due to massive damage to roads. Several others are living in emergency shelters. The Japanese military has been handing out supplies including food, water and blankets for those who have had to vacate their homes. The Defense Ministry said in a statement that it had sent nearly 6,000 troops out to help with the relief mission. They added that they believe there are still people alive who need rescue and vowed to continue their life-saving operations despite the ending of a critical 72-hour window to find survivors. Stories of miraculous recoveries have been re-emerging. A woman in her 90s was found alive under rubble 5 days afterwards in Suzu. Those in the worst affected areas are being urged to keep their guard up as they continue to experience further quakes. As of early Monday, more than 1,200 tremors have been recorded since New Year's Day. Japan is one of the most seismically active countries in the world, and activity has been increasing around Noto since the end of 2020. More than 500 small and medium earthquakes have hit there over the past 3 years.
Well, let's take a short commercial break. More world news right after this. Welcome back everyone to World News Tonight. Now, the 81st Golden Globe Awards kicked off 2024's award season to celebrate a past year that saw the massive successes of Barbie and Oppenheimer at the box office, as well as the discourse-defining series finale of Succession, Ted Lasso and The Crown on the small screen. Now, Hollywood's biggest stars walked the red carpet yesterday evening before the event, highlighting the best of movies and TV from 2023 at the Beverly Hilton Hotel in Beverly Hills, California.
After a football doubleheader.
Comedian Joe Coy, who was the host of the evening, told the gathered celebrities at the start of the show that his hosting spot was the best seat in the house. The comedian joked in his monologue that he hadn't actually viewed much of the nominated work except for Netflix's series Beef, but his 2024 New Year's resolution is to finish Oppenheimer in 2025. Oppenheimer was the big winner at the Golden Globe Awards, taking home 5 awards including the top prize. Cillian Murphy and Robert Downey Jr. were both recognized for their acting performances.
And the Golden Globe goes to Oppenheimer!
While Christopher Nolan won Best Director. In a much-anticipated moment, Irish actor Cillian Murphy emerged victorious in the Best Male Actor Motion Picture Drama category, taking home the trophy for portraying J. Robert Oppenheimer.
Question, do I have lipstick all over my nose? I'm just going to leave it.
Oppenheimer, of course, was the theoretical scientist who directed the Manhattan Project. Murphy accepted the award with his wife's lipstick on his nose. Oppenheimer's director Christopher Nolan won the Best Director Motion Picture Award, marking his first victory at the Globes. Succession scored the most wins in the TV categories following its acclaimed 4th and final season. Meanwhile, Barbie won the inaugural Box Office Achievement Award after grossing $1.4 billion worldwide. There were 2 wins each for Anatomy of a Fall, The Holdovers and Poor Things, and one for Martin Scorsese's Killers of the Flower Moon. The latter film's star Lily Gladstone was named Best Drama Actress, making her the first Indigenous person to win the award. Downey Jr. acknowledged the film's unlikely box office success in his acceptance speech, joking, "A sweeping story about the ethical dilemma of nuclear weapons grosses $1 billion. The Golden Globes marks the first major ceremony of film awards season, which culminates with the Oscars on the 10th of March.
Well, before we wrap up, we have a heartwarming story. Now, it's a story you don't hear every day. A dog is all alive and well, wagging its tail, thanks to a family cat who's scared off an attacking coyote.
It was kind of inspired by it, quite frankly.
Oakley is a white dog, Binks a black cat. They're polar opposites, but they're family. This wooded backyard is Binks's domain.
She was a neighborhood cat, just showed up when she was about 2 months old.
November 30th, while the family's 2 other big dogs were also outside, out of camera view, Lane Dyer says he let the 6-year-old Havanese out to go to the bathroom.
Out of nowhere was attacked by a coyote.
Then another coyote appears. But see that to the left? Well, that's Binks, saying not in her backyard.
Jumped down and scared him off. Is the craziest thing ever.
That gave Oakley enough time to run inside.
Cut her open. She was gushing blood, from her chest and her side.
The Dyers rushed Oakley to the hospital. She was stitched up and her leg was put in a splint. Doctors telling family Oakley may lose the limb. Thankfully, it's still intact. But while waiting for her recovery, the Dyers tried to figure out what happened.
Thankfully, we had security cameras. We were able to go back and actually look to see what happened. It was inspiring to see just our little outdoor cat just jump at 2 coyotes that were attacking this little dog who she loves and run them off.
Now Oakley is back to her old self, doing tricks and eating treats, while Binks keeps a watchful eye on the woods.
Well, this is why I always say cats are perfect. And that is a part of your World Tonight. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you again tomorrow right here on World News Tonight. See you then. Bye for now.